Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for coming to our webinar, an introduction to the CivicSpark program. Thank you all for taking the time to hear about how the program works and how to get involved. My name is Kif Scheuer. I'm the Climate Change Program Director at the Local Government Commission, and today I'll be providing an overview of the CivicSpark program, talk about the application process and the timeline, and reserve a significant amount of time for questions. This is the third in the series that we've done, and we will be doing more. In addition, we will be posting the webinar, the full recording, online and making the slides available to folks who are interested. For reference, our website is www.civicspark.lgc.org, and I'm going to just dive right in. Thank you. So, CivicSpark is a Governor's Initiative AmeriCorps program. It is dedicated to building the capacity for local governments to address climate change. This program was born out of an initiative in the Governor's Office of Planning and Research in partnership with the Local Government Commission, and was designed to address a problem that's long been recognized at the state level and certainly at the local government level, which is that climate change requires a significant amount of effort and resources on the part of local governments, and local governments are a key part of the way we will respond to climate change in California, but there's a capacity gap in their ability to respond. There's a lot of will, intent, and a lot of amazing people out there, and I know some of you are on the call today, but there's no shortage of work to be done, and we need some help. So over the 2012-2013 or 2013 year, the Governor's Office, in partnership with the Local Government Commission, did a planning process that consisted of 9 listening sessions around the state to understand exactly what were local government climate change needs and how they might respond through a national service program, because the Governor's Office has the ability to nominate a topic area for a specific AmeriCorps program during any given cycle, and they picked local government climate response capacity as that initiative. So our program is based around the concept of using AmeriCorps members who are generally recent college graduates who are dedicating a year of their lives to national service as climate readiness teams in 9 regional hubs where they work with local government staff and partners to implement projects with a network of regional supervisors, regional partners, and us at the Local Government Commission as statewide staff. So I've mentioned the Local Government Commission where I work, and for those of you who are not familiar, it is a 34-year-old mom who has experience identifying and champion, local governments who want to be sustainability leaders. It was started actually under Governor Brown's administration in his first administration during the first energy crisis, when there was a desire to bring local government leaders together to identify solutions. This was such a powerful network. It's reformed as a nonprofit and has been operating ever since with the goal of providing leadership, program infrastructure. It provides networking opportunities and technical assistance to local governments through our over 700-member network. As the program manager for CivicSpark, we provide the overall infrastructure, the operational maintenance and implementation design for the program. We recruit, hire, and support the members. We link local governments to member support. We coordinate the training and ensure that performance goals are met. It is our goal at this point, I'm not sure if she's on the line, but Holly Roberson was going to join us to give you an overview of the Governor's Office and their involvement. But we'll wait and see if she does join us, and I'll let her come back. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and outline the role of the Governor's Office. So as many of you will likely know, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research is the agency responsible for implementing planning activities, coordinating local government liaison. They are the sort of gatekeepers of land use planning authority land use planning support for local governments in California. And as such, they're the natural site to be the state agency partner for CivicSpark, and they're an incredible ally. This has clearly been, climate change is clearly a priority of the governor's. He has put a lot of effort into identifying opportunities and resources for local governments, and this is one of those programs. We work closely with the governor's office to make sure there's some alignment between the tools and resources that they are propagating and making available to local governments and the programs and offerings we have. In addition, we try and use CivicSpark as a means to gather information, to hear what's on the ground and what's happening with with our local government projects, and share that with the state so they can better align their offerings with what's going on around the state. So some of the other program partners involved are the Corporation for National and Community Service. This is the federal agency that funds all AmeriCorps programs. And for those of you who aren't familiar, AmeriCorps has been around for 20 years now, and it's a national service program that currently deploys about 75,000 people a year into service roles throughout the country, doing a wide variety of activities, of which CivicSpark is just one of a very large family of programs. In California, AmeriCorps programs are managed and supported through California Volunteers, who's a state department who manages all state service volunteer activities. We're also proud to be partnered with Encore.org. This is an organization that has come out over the last few years to provide pathways for retiring professionals into social purpose work. So we work with Encore to identify seasoned project management professionals who act as our local regional supervisors, working with our climate readiness teams in each of the 9 regions and providing them with both direct guidance and also mentorship, and helping to take their business and professional expertise and teach these emerging professionals how to craft a career, hopefully in public service and hopefully addressing climate change. And finally, of course, we couldn't do it without our AmeriCorps members. We bring on 48 AmeriCorps members a year. These are college educated, they come with a relevant background experience, and they provide the on-the-ground direct service to our beneficiaries or local government partners. We also use a network of regional partners to provide some context, understanding, and engagement with the communities around the state. So we have 9 regions, and in each region we've identified an NGO, public agency, or public agency who can serve as our connection to the community. And you can see from this map of the state exactly how our program is distributed. These are all the projects around the state, but they cluster around those regions, from the North Coast down to San Diego. And in each region, we found a partner who understands the lay of the land, the community, the various interests and needs in the community, so that when we are working with them, we're trying to reflect through the service work we do exactly what is needed throughout the community. Now, I should mention that these obviously are not everywhere. California is a huge state, and we do have some partners and projects. You'll see over there just above Thousand Oaks in Ventura, we have a member working with the Housing Authority of Ventura, clearly not quite in the immediate Los Angeles region. We have a project down that you can see down there by Bakersfield. We can support projects when members are placed remotely that are quite a distance from our regional partners and our regional hubs. So to give you a flavor of the kind of work we're doing, I want to show you some of the project examples from 2014-15 service year, which we're about halfway done. We are doing work in the climate resiliency space, working with the Bay Area Conservation Development Commission on a resilient shorelines analysis, specifically working with Contra Costa County and San Rafael to understand the possible impacts and responses to sea level rise. We're also doing a vulnerability assessment for the Sacramento region in partnership with the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. And this is looking at, in particular, some of the risks to low-income, socioeconomically stressed communities in the region. We're, of course, doing GHG emission reduction projects, whether through business community support in Benicia and Fresno County, or implementing solar streamlining options in the Central Coast. We're doing urban greening projects, both urban heat islands work, trying to understand where and we have urban heat island issues and possible tree canopy opportunities for addressing them, and a larger urban forestry project in the San Joaquin Valley, aiming to provide education, awareness, and technical assistance to local governments in the valley who might want to deploy urban forestry programs, and in particular try and access some of the urban forestry cap and trade funds. We're doing clean and alternative transportation projects. We have an alternative fuels corridor development project with the North Coast and the Redwood Coast Energy Authority, and that one extends over multiple counties. We're doing some last mile system development with both LA Metro and the Southern California Association of Governments, looking at some of the linkage questions that help increase public transit options in regions that are less, that are off the exact map of existing public transit. And finally, I'll mention we're doing a number of regional scale projects where our partners in one way or another have identified opportunities to do multiple benefit projects for multiple local governments all at once to achieve an economy of scale by deploying a similar project or program or approach across multiple jurisdictions. So we're doing energy action plans with 7 cities in the Sierras through the Sierra Business Council, implementing the iCommute program, which is an alternative commute and alternative transportation program with 3 cities in the South San Diego region, and then doing a residential energy permit program. This is a point of permit energy audit and assessment program with all the local governments in the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. That's 16 or 17, I believe. Oh, great. It looks like Holly Roberson has joined us, so I'm going to just bounce back for a moment to that slide about the governor's office and give Holly a chance to introduce herself and talk about the role of the governor's office. Holly, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Webinar success. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I understand we have over 20 people on the line, which is a great turnout. The first thing I want to say is get your applications in early, because if everybody on this call applies and gets in, that means we'll already be half full, and we're doing multiple webinars. So I am Holly Roberson. I'm Land Use Counsel at the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. As Kip probably mentioned, CivicSpark is the Governor's AmeriCorps initiative for climate change. He gets to pick one AmeriCorps program, and we've developed this program in partnership with California volunteers and the Local Government Commission to specifically meet the unmet needs of local governments for capacity building so that they can participate in the green economy, connect up with state programs, and most importantly, reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the local level. So we're very happy to have our excellent partners. We're wrapping up year 1. It's been a real success so far. We've been really pleased with the way things have turned out, and I'm expecting that it will get bigger and better in year 2 and moving forward. One of the advantages you get as a local government, or as we say, beneficiaries, is you get not only the excellent support of an on-course supervisor, which if Kif hasn't explained, I'm sure he will, as well as the local government commission staff, but you also get technical support and access to state resources, essentially in the form of me and my time. I get to visit every region, which is really fun to get out on the road and see how things are going on the ground level. And we're also always looking for great ideas and feedback back from the local government level to the state. So this is really our premier program for making sure that we are supporting change from the ground up. Does anybody have any questions about OPR or the governor's interest in this or our role?
Nothing has come up yet, Holly, but will you be on the line or do you need to jump away?
Unfortunately, I have to go back to my other meeting. You guys are important enough. I ducked out of another one, and so I got to go back in. But if you want to email me, I'd be happy to get folks with any questions. I'd be happy to answer them directly.
That's great, Holly, and I can tell everybody on the line that she is true to her word. And so if anybody has any questions that come up that would be best directed to Holly, we'll make sure to get those over to her and then back to you after the event.
Great, and feel free to give out my contact information. Thanks, everybody, for your interest in the program.
Have a great day. So now I'm going to go back to where we were. I think I had just finished talking about the project examples from 2014 and 15. And so now I'd like to talk about a little bit more of the nuts and bolts, how the program works. So the service delivery model, the approach to sort of making this program work is based on essentially 4 stages. We recruit members. These are the 48 college graduates with environmental backgrounds. We do all the upfront screening, interviewing, and selection of the candidates. We've been doing this now for quite some time. Kristen and I both come from a background of doing a similar program in the Bay Area, and we've developed a pretty strong process for screening candidates, for identifying strong professionals committed to this kind of work with the kind of interest and background that you're looking for these kind of projects. Now, they're not highly specified. Generally, they're recent college graduates. We get a handful of members who have master's degrees, but this is not the kind of program where you're going to come into us and say, I need an electrical engineer with specific experience in, lighting system management. These are talented, motivated, and passionate people, but they're not highly specialized. Though many of them have had potentially an internship or done a thesis project related to climate change. For many of them, it's their first professional placement, their first real job, but they come on with a lot of engagement and interest and focus on the work. We place the members across the regions based on the project needs and the locations and the scale of the work. We try and match people by interest to the kind of projects that they're looking for. The more upfront we know about them, the better matching we can do. But we really try and fit everybody pretty well to the kind of work they're going to be doing. We then simultaneously are engaging folks like you who may be on the phone as either interested project partners or people who have local governments you might be working with a goal of trying to reach 96 cities, counties, and regional agencies around the state each year. Currently, I think we're up to 98 or 99 who we're working with currently for this year. We're going to probably get a few more. Now, when we talk about local government, we're talking about any public agency below the level of a state agency. So this could be a school district, a special district, a water district, as well as your cities, your counties, other regional agencies, associations of government. It cannot be a nonprofit, but that doesn't mean that we can't work with a nonprofit to implement a program in a community. So we're open to a lot of structures, but we have to have a nexus with a public agency, a local government. And then we build capacity by the members and their supervisors working on research, planning, and implementation projects, because at the end of the day, capacity comes about from increasing the ability of our communities to respond to climate change. So there's no one way to do that. Communities are best capable of identifying those, and we work with the communities to figure out what the project goals are that are going to leave them in a better place than they were when we came on board. We do this, the members do their work in 4 stages. As I just mentioned, there's no one size fits all, but in order to provide a consistent program structure, we have some elements to our program that are consistent so that we have an approach that is replicable and teachable to our members and we can capture the results from. So once the members come on board, there is some preliminary paperwork I'll talk about in a moment, but once the members come on board, every one of them is going, or for every project beneficiary, every local government we work with, we're going to conduct what we call a gap assessment. This is not a comprehensive gap assessment, but it's the member getting their hands around the project and the need in that local government. So they may review documents and conduct an interview with the local government staff they're going to work with so that they can ensure that the project scope aligns with and supports their climate change capacity need and conforms to our AmeriCorps program structure. Then they're going to do the bulk of their work is going to be the service project itself. This is a specific, defined research, planning, or implementation project that's identified during the early scoping and application stage, finalized during the gap assessment, and then implemented by the member over the course of their time. We generally are estimating that 90%, 85 to 90% of their time is going to be spent on this service project. They might spend 1 to 2% on the gap assessment. While they're doing their service project, ideally in parallel and actually within their service project, members are committed to increasing volunteerism around climate change in the community and for the local governments that we're working with. The reason for this is twofold. It's part of all AmeriCorps programs. It was set up early on in the history of AmeriCorps as a goal to use national service as a kind of pay-it-forward strategy where not only would we deliver on the work we're doing, but we would try and engage more citizens in the issues and thereby build a capacity for the community to take on this work on their own. We also see it as a great way to leverage the work we're doing. So if a member is working on a greenhouse gas inventory and can connect with some local high school and college students who can spend some time getting a learning experience under the watch of our AmeriCorps members and get more work done on the project, we feel like we've leveraged our time and efforts and resources even further. So the members will work with, during the gap assessment process, the local government staff to identify an appropriate volunteer engagement strategy. In some cases where that local government has really not worked with volunteers up until that point, the strategy may just be the establishment, the defining of a possible new volunteer program. And we have resources that we've prepared for members so that they can broach that topic with local governments who may be not familiar with working with volunteers, set up the first level of infrastructure, and ideally leave them with the framework for a program to launch on their own. And finally, we also try in a very modest way to transition the expertise. And by this we mean to not just walk away and end our program once the project is done and the report is written. We don't want to just hit send and be done. We want to come up with some way to memorialize the outcome, to hand it over, to transition it to the staff or the community that we're working with through a workshop, a training, a presentation, a board meeting, so that there is an event that marks the end of this project, because it's one of the ways that we see kind of enabling the local governments that we work with to sustain the momentum of this AmeriCorps service work. So just to give you a sense of the numbers of where we stand, and actually I can tell you this, one of these is at least out of date, but in terms of interest on the part of the AmeriCorps member and the emerging professional community, we received 5 applications for each open position that we had in the program. This is an acceptance rate or an application rate comparable to that of more established AmeriCorps programs. So programs that have been up and running longer. So we only anticipate the competition for openings to increase over time. We've also provided, at this point, I believe over 25,000 hours of service to the California communities. This slide was actually just from the beginning of April, and since that time, we've racked up quite a few more hours of service. We are currently implementing 36 projects, which are assisting over, I believe I said, 98 local government agencies at this point. You can see that the program is building momentum even between a month time between the last time I did this presentation. So it's very active, a lot of work going on, and it's really exciting to hear the stories from the members that they tell us of the outcomes as they start to really build traction in their communities. To give you a flavor of that, we have a few partner testimonials that you can see. We're hearing at a variety of different levels how the program is having an impact on our local government. So, you know, sometimes it's just the work they're doing is good work. They're putting on a workshop. They are providing deliverables that are meeting and exceeding expectations. And this is really exciting for the staff that we're working with, the partners that we're working with, because they didn't expect necessarily to see such a quick proliferation of outcomes at the level that they are, and that's great. But beyond that, we have generative effects. You see this quote about bringing a fresh perspective, and that's really important because these people are coming in with passion, excitement, and energy, and they can often invigorate the communities and the local governments that they're working with because they do feel like it's exciting to be working in public service. And at times when we're down in the trenches on climate change work, it can feel a little bit like a slog, and so having some young people come in who are really excited to work on this topic can be really invigorating and inspiring to the community and the people they're working with. It's also raising the bar, moving the needle, whatever you might say, for climate plan implementation. So this is a quote, without CivicSpark, climate planning would not be happening here. That's from some of our Central Coast partners, because really they're the only ones who are really pushing hard. They have the time, the energy, and the commitment to the work that the local government staff just don't have, and that's really moving things forward. So to talk a little bit more about the application process, again, I've laid it out in 4 steps here that lead up to what I described before, which was the gap assessment. So there's an initial project application. This provides some basic project details, includes information about the local government agencies receiving services. And again, the applicant does not have to be a local government. The applicant can be a nonprofit, a state agency, or a local government that's receiving the services directly. We can accept sponsorship from private organizations, but we can't directly partner with a private organization because this is a federally funded national service program not meant to benefit private companies. So there's this initial project outline that really just out the project is a starting point for me to have a conversation about how this fits with our program, with our structure, with the kind of folks we have and the timing we have. If that seems viable for both sides, then we move a little deeper into the service agreement. And the service agreement is really what many of you would be familiar with as a professional services consulting agreement. So it is a template that talks about all the typical elements, boilerplate elements of a consulting agreement. But at the end, in the exhibit, it's got more of a detailed outline of how our program works. It is a place to provide a general project scope because the members are really there as a capacity building resource. We don't want to have them exceptionally dialed in the way you might with a traditional professional services agreement because they're there to be flexibly applied to the needs in the community. But it also sets the project hours, the costs that are involved with the program. And that's usually the most involved piece to get done, frankly, because signing a contract requires authority. We're very flexible and easy to work with. If an organization needs to use their template, we usually just fold the exhibits into it. The next stage, once that means the project has been greenlit by both us and you as a project participant. We would do a pre-service capacity survey. What this is because we're an AmeriCorps program, we're tracking performance, and the way we measure performance is by looking at the capacity needs and goals before and after the project. And so during that pre-capacity survey, we ask the local government staff, who's going to be the point of contact for the project. Again, it doesn't have to be the applicant, but it may be the downstream project partner that we're working with, the actual local government staff. And it's a survey of climate issues and understanding in the community. It also defines the goals for the project as that local government staff person sees them, both a staff goal, a project goal, and a sort of transitional or diffusion of knowledge goal. That survey will be followed up at the end of the project by a post-service capacity survey, and that's really comparing those two and seeing whether we met our goals is really the primary measure by which we measure our success. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the member will then come on board to do the gap assessment. And some people say, why does there have to be so many stages? Well, part of it is to give you as a participating organization or a local government the chance to become familiar with the program before you get all the way in. Because it's a commitment. It's a commitment on the part of us. It's a commitment on the part of you as a potential program partner. And we want to make a difference in the community. And so we want to give you a chance to scope the project, make an agreement, and then we really get into the work. As far as eligibility, again, all AmeriCorps programs have eligibility requirements. For us, eligibility consists of a local government must demonstrate a capacity need, and this need is measured by the absence of one or more of these first three items, and then I'll touch on the fourth item. So the absence of a full-time dedicated sustainability staff person, or a formally adopted climate action plan or similar mechanism, or specific mechanisms in place to annually track climate action progress in a comprehensive way. In California, we see a wide range of capacity for taking climate action, and these were the three items that we identified as major indicators that there might be a barrier to action, a capacity gap that is representing a need. And so even among the more developed, forward-acting local governments, we rarely, never to this date, have seen a specific mechanism in place to annually track climate action progress because we're just not there yet. But if you have questions about whether you would be eligible, please let us know before we get too far down it, because we want to make sure that you are. And I would say, as I've mentioned, most local governments that we've come across, all of the ones that have applied to be in the program, have been eligible. In addition, the project must provide a minimum of 200 hours of service to the local governments we're serving. So that means if it's a single project for a single local government, it needs to be at least 200 hours because we want to make sure the AmeriCorps members have enough time to make a difference. If it's a project that is serving multiple beneficiaries, then each of those beneficiaries needs to receive 200 hours of service. Some of those hours can be counted for both beneficiaries because, for example, if we're preparing a template document that's going to be used for an energy action plan across 7 cities, the preparation of that document, not the population of the content, but the preparation can be shared across those hours. Again, if you have questions about a project scale, please get in touch with us. So now my favorite slide, the fiscal contribution, because of course there's always a hook with something like this. There is no free lunch, as they say. There is a fiscal contribution to this program required. All AmeriCorps programs require a match of some scale or another. And our fiscal contribution for the 2015 and 16 year, and we're in a bit of a review process right now, so I'm saying that it's going to be $18 to $20 an hour per project hour, depending on the size of the project. So a smaller project has a little bit more overhead, so it's going to be probably more like 20, whereas the larger projects are going to be closer to $18 or $18 an hour, which is where we're currently doing it. And we're just learning over time that some of those smaller projects have just required a lot more work to set up and operate, and so we need to be a little bit mindful about the project pricing, but this is not final to date, and I'll go into some of those costing examples in just a moment. But that price is, again, just the amount of time for the project hours. It's an all-inclusive price, and it covers both the member and the supervisor's time. So the supervisor spends time meeting with the members maybe on a weekly basis, meeting with the project partners occasionally, and generally acting as a coordinator for the regional project activity, and that has an incredible value to make sure things stay on track. If there's issues, staffing issues or project implementation issues, they're there as a front line to answer questions. It also includes our staff time, LGC's staff time, and OPR's involvement, which has no additional sort of price attached to it. And so if a project comes up and there's a request to get some questions from the governor's office, we often have a good line there. If there's a connection that can be made from local LGC staff, we're happy to also troubleshoot those questions and try and provide some assistance. And you're part of a larger network, so many times at this point we're seeing projects that have peer projects going on in other CivicSpark sites around the state, and that provides an added benefit to the implementation that doesn't have a price. Our pricing does also include up to $1 an hour for project-related travel expenses for the team, so we can cover some if the project is not, if the member is not based in the actual site of the project, but they're based at a remote office with the rest of the team perhaps, they can do site visits without charging that back to the project. It also is only based on the project work, not the administrative or training time spent by the team. And just by way of comparison, that partner fiscal contribution is roughly matched by federal and in-kind. So we're really coming up with a program that is bringing a lot to the table, is enabling this larger network to accrue around the program, provide a lot of support for the members when they're on site and doing the work by having this federal and in-kind support. And as I mentioned earlier, local governments can provide this directly, or they can work with a third-party resources. So if they have grant funds, if they have a community foundation, if there's a private sponsor, or if there's a different entity that wants to be the sort of project program partner, but do it for the benefit of these local governments, we can do all of those things and just ask us. So to give you a little bit more of a flavor of this at project sizing, these are some cost examples. And as I mentioned earlier, this is funded by both CNCS and by the partners' fiscal contribution. So as we move into year 2, we're learning a lot about year 1. And one of the things we're learning is that having just a per hour rate is incredibly complicated and maybe challenging for local governments to sort of figure out. And so what we're moving towards is more of a small, medium, and large program structure and fixed rates for those with fixed benefits. So you can see on this slide at the smaller end, this is would be say $4,000, and again, this is a draft. You guys are getting a preview here of some thinking on our part, but this is where I think we're headed. For a small project, that minimum 200-hour project would have a fixed cost of say $4,000. It would include at least 10 hours of prep on the part of the members to get ready to understand the scale of the need and the resources, maybe do a little bit of training on their own to get up to speed on something. It would also include up to $200 in project-related travel covered for the team. So you can see that even at that point, the base value of that is actually, even though the hourly rate might be called $20 an hour, you're still getting more value for that. And then there's all those other downstream values I mentioned. A medium project, we'd see a 5% discount on the hourly rate, but you'd also get more project prep hours and more project travel time allowed in the budget. And then a large project would be around 1,000 hours, and it would include at least 100 project prep hours and up to $1,000 in project-related travel. So you can see the benefits are sort of scaling up there with the size of the project. And at the highest end, we're setting a fixed cost for what we're calling an embedded member. So this is the cost that it represents for us to have a member's whole service year dedicated to one either local government or community effort. It might be multi-beneficial, but it may be that they're embedded with the organization that they're working with. And that means they're working on site. There's a more significant amount of hours available that will be dedicated to the project. There's more prep hours that they can spend on the project. But in addition to all those sort of increased benefits at a lower cost, that means that the service activities that the member is going to engage in, because members do other community service related work while they're AmeriCorps members, would be focused on the community that they're working in, as opposed to being deployed anywhere in the region depending on what was going on. And they can work on site for the full service year, so you really get their whole attention to your organization. There's a lot of benefits and a lot of great experience with the embedded member, and that's why we're trying to offer it sort of the best value there. So some key dates for 2015-16. We are accepting proposals anytime. We're really excited to talk with anyone who wants to about possible project proposals, small, medium, or large. From now until September, we'll be going through project application, recruitment, and selection. Ideally, we'll be winding that down by September, because starting in about early July, we'll be doing member recruitment. And the more we know about projects and regional activity, the better we're going to make a fit between the members and the activity going on. By late September, we hopefully are moving out of the project identification process and really getting those service agreements finalized, because in late October, member orientation starts, and then by early November, the project starts. And if we can have all of our projects fully fit out by the time the members are ready to roll, we can get going sooner, faster, and more fully for the service year. So I will also mention that we do have some bandwidth left this year. If you have immediate needs, get in touch with us, because I think we have some space in some areas to take on some work for this year, which is going to run until mid-September, or we could support a remote project. So if you have a project that involves a lot of research or analysis or writing, we might be able to help you out, and we'd be glad to talk with you about that right away. So at this point, I think I have said an immense amount, and I'd be happy to stop and answer any questions. If you want me to go back to a slide, I can also do that. So Kristen, have any questions come in?
Yes, can you answer, can community colleges participate?
A community college, my understanding, and you might know whoever asked the question, are state agencies. If it's a CSU, it's a state community college. If it's not, if it's a public institution but it is not a state institution, then we could partner directly and we could work. That could be the beneficiary where our service is happening. If, however, it's a CSU or a UC, we could still have a project going on there as long as there was a nexus to an actual local government. So you might see a community engagement project around the campus or relating to how the students get to the campus that is of interest to the surrounding local government, but really the work could go in partnership with the community college or the university.
Could you speak a little bit more about how CivicSpark work is being evaluated and who is doing the evaluation?
That's a great question. So AmeriCorps programs require an evaluation to go on, a formal evaluation process to go on once within the contract period, which is 3 years. We have the good fortune of actually getting a grant to do some early program evaluation, and we're in that process right now. We just had a 2-day retreat with our regional supervisors to talk about the program operations and sort of what we're learning to date, and some of the description of the pricing changes that I just outlined were in part a result of that feedback we're getting from project partners and regional supervisors and members. On a more, we also do performance evaluations of the members. We do one at the beginning and one at the end to get a sense of their process. Because we're also doing direct invoicing to our project partners, by and large, we're hearing if there's any issues with the implementation of the projects. And then on a more day-to-day basis, the regional supervisors check in with the members every week to find out how the projects are going. They're checking in with the project partners periodically to find out if we're meeting all of our goals and deliverables. So I think in all those ways, we are ideally have a strong mechanism to ensure quality of the work we're doing, but we also have strong project partners, and in many cases, it's the actual project partner, say with the Sierra Business Council. They have a dedicated project manager who's really managing the overall work product, and they do the quality control at a very granular level.
No other specific questions at this point.
No other specific questions. I will continue to give you guys a few minutes if anybody wants to type anything. I don't see anybody's raising their hand. If anybody has a project idea they want to throw out there, I'm happy to sort of brainstorm with folks as an example. It can be useful to sort of flesh out where folks are and are not. I should mention that we have, any number of great partners that we're working with. So if you are working in a particular region and you are wondering about how effective and strong the program is, we'd be happy to put you in touch with some references to talk about what the experience has been like for them of working with us and working with our AmeriCorps members. I think by and large we're seeing some pretty exceptional results. As you can imagine, in a first-year program, there's always some hiccups, but I think from a delivery of outcomes, we're really exceeding our goals so far. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, we will let you guys go. I guess I talked really fast. We've only been going for about 41 minutes, and nobody minds having an extra 20 minutes in their day. So.
And again, we will follow this up with an email sent out with the link to the recording today, the slides for you, and then that way you, of course, will have our contact information, as well as Kip's email is up on the screen right now. So if there are any additional questions, you can always follow up that way.
And so I just want to say thank you, for your attention and your time today. We are obviously really passionate about this program, but it comes from a lot of experience seeing what amazing things can be done by marrying the incredible talent in our local governments and in our communities, and the motivation that we have in California to tackle climate change with this incredibly passionate group of people who really want to make a difference, but are looking to do it in the professional space, looking to do it through this project implementation mechanism. So I hope you'll give us a chance and a consideration if you're thinking about a project, and I welcome your questions anytime. Have a great day.